The activity flow journal builds on the good time journal, but focuses more on tracking patterns and making adjustments over time. So it's not just understanding what gives you the energy or how engaged you are. It's about using that data to make better decisions on how to structure your days, your weeks. The goal is to make informed adjustments. So batching those high energy tasks during your peak energy hours and either delegating or moving draining tasks to low energy times. So when you're tracking it, I have a formula that's in there that will help you determine if something is a potential that you're in flow when you're doing this activity or potential that this is a drain. Welcome to Everyday Innovation, your go-to podcast for enhancing your creative and entrepreneurial process. I'm Jordan DeVecchia, a multi-passionate creator entrepreneur, venture studio co-founder, and business designer and advisor. Here we live at the intersection of creativity, strategy, and personal development. Join me for inspiring conversations, actionable practices, and insight infusions designed to shift your mindset and empower you with tools and resources to create impactful ventures. Get ready to take your ideas to the next level and innovate with purpose. Welcome back to the Everyday Innovation Podcast. Today, I'm expanding upon the last episode that was released, which is on flow. So if you haven't listened to it yet, you can go ahead and listen to it now, or you can wait till after this episode. Just going to give a little bit more context on the concept of flow and how it plays into energy management, which is what we're talking about today. So energy is like power, literally. In physics, power is the rate at which energy is transferred or transformed. But in life, stepping into your power is about understanding where your energy goes and how to harness it effectively. Just like an engine converts fuel into movement, your ability to use energy efficiently is what moves you forward and using it in a way that's authentic to you. And today we're going to explore how you can do that, how managing your energy can help you design a better life, a better business, and ultimately help you step into your personal and professional power. By the end of this episode, I'll introduce you to a couple of tools, so the Good Time Journal and my own Activity Flow Journal. But first, let's talk about how energy flow is the foundation of life and venture design, in my opinion. We often think that success in life or business is about time management. I know that many of you have probably read a million different productivity hacks on how to manage your time, especially when you get into your calendar, time boxing, trying to leverage those 24 hours. And I'm not saying that time isn't one of the most precious resources in the world. It's just maybe not always the one that is as indicative of how we can leverage our power. What if we packing tasks into every single minute or trying to over engineer our time is not the right approach? What if it's more about energy management? So think about it. How often have you felt burnt out, not because of the hours that you work, but how draining those hours were? It's really the content of our time rather than our use of the time, if that makes sense. And energy is both at the core of life and venture design. So life design really is about structuring your day, your activities, and your habits around your unique needs, your process, and also what gives you energy. Venture design is kind of similar, but when you're getting into it, it's more of the frameworks that help your business align with its goals and its impact, right? So energy is also going to be a part of that because it's made up of people. And there's things that are needing to be done in a day and time, and energy is the resources of it being effectively used. So if your business is sustainable, it's not even just talking about the environment and its impact on the environment. It's also, can the processes set up in your business or the design of your business or the design of your life be sustainable as well? So energy and sustainability, I talk a little bit about this even in the flow episode. Your energy is a way of becoming more sustainable in both your life and even in your venture as well. So it's a great way of understanding how to leverage your resources. So when I talk about resources, often that is time, that is talent and people, that could be energy, and it could also be money, of course, right? So when we think about that, I don't want people to discount energy management in the business side as well, because it's just as important. So this is why tools like the Activity Flow Journal can be so powerful. They don't just help you track time, they help you track how you're showing up, where your energy is going, and how to make decisions based on that information. So decisions are so incredibly important. That's going to be coming up in maybe a few episodes from now. We'll see where it lands, but decision making is so critical to your process, and you can really leverage your decisions more effectively and those pivots more effectively if you understand how you're managing your energy and where you want that energy to go. So we'll get into the details of the journalator, that particular tool, but let's first talk about some ways to discover what gives you energy and what drains it. So before I get into kind of like maybe some of the hacks or a few different things that you can experiment with in designing your day and looking at what gives you energy, what's working, what's not working. So the first step to managing your energy is understanding it. One of the most important things that I've learned is that not all activities that feel good in the short run actually sustain you in the long run. And the reverse is true. Sometimes the things that feel tough, you have resistance to, or might feel a little bit draining initially, are the ones that give you lasting energy and fulfillment. So, this is something to keep in mind when you're tracking them. So, for example, let's take something like social media. In the short term, it might feel energizing, it's quick, it's stimulating, but over time, it can drain you mentally. On the flip side, something like going for a run or doing certain types of deep work might feel a little difficult, or there might be some resistance, or it might be a little bit draining in the moment, but afterwards you feel recharged. And recharged feeling may come soon after. It may be the feeling good to have done. It could also just be over time. The more that you show up and do that thing, the more confident you feel, the more accomplished you feel. So sometimes, like the first couple of times working out, it might feel like more of a draining activity, but then over time, you become more and more energized. So, what are some little energy boost hacks? Honestly, movement is always going to be one. So, anything where you can move your body a little bit, dancing, walking, it doesn't have to be anything that's too mentally taxing, can reset your energy level. So, sometimes scheduling in a walk or something like that in between certain activities can help you get a little bit of energy back without having to rely on caffeine, other things like that, and can boost your energy, the movement of that energy, so that you can show up for your next task with the power that you need. Creative breaks are also really helpful too. I enjoy like playing music for a few minutes or doodling or journaling because those things give me a bit of energy and allow me to express myself or maybe express any thoughts that are kind of trapped up there so that I can put that to the side and then go back to what I'm doing. And then one of the biggest hacks I think that is super helpful for energy is to change your environment. Sometimes a change of scenery, like moving to a different room, going to your favorite coffee shop, or even just adjusting your environment, putting on a fun colored light like I have in the background here, if you can see it, or putting on some really fun music can totally shift your mood and your energy. So these are small experiments that you can use to try to discover what truly gives you energy versus what seems energizing in the moment but is draining in the long run. So I want to introduce you to the Good Time Journal. So that's what the Activity Flow Journal is based on. So I'm going to start with the OG one. So this one comes from Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. Many of you might be familiar with it. If you haven't read it, I will link it in the show notes. It'll also be in the guide that will help you with the Activity Flow Journal, which is totally free. And all you need to do is just like sign up in the show notes. But I want to explain it to you first, of course. But it's all about tracking engagement and energy. So if you, let's say you're just wanting to put it in your journal right now, like you're just writing some of your tasks down. After each task, you rate two things. Engagement. How into it were you? Did you lose track of time or were you distracted? And energy. How did you feel afterward? Were you energized, neutral, or completely drained? So, in the activity flow journal and in the original as well, there are ratings. So, engagement goes from like 0 to 5, for example. So, in one of the versions of the activity flow journal, I do have star ratings. So, you're just kind of rating it like, how engaged were you? So, were you able to really dial into it? Or was it something that you just like, oh my God, I don't even want to be here. I can't even pay any attention. You can rate each of these activities and you can just do that in your own way in a notebook if you'd like. For energy, you can reflect on these things like how did you feel afterwards? Were you feeling energized, neutral, or drained? But I like using numbers as well. You could do like -5 to 5. So 0 would be neutral, right? So if you're thinking of like a dial, right? 0 would be neutral. Negative, like if you felt drained after, less energy after, and it doesn't have to be a good or bad thing. You just feel drained, right? Or after you left that, did you feel more energized? So maybe there are certain interactions where you leave them feeling like neutral, like you don't necessarily feel drained, you don't necessarily feel energized. There could be an interaction where literally you just talk to somebody for 5 minutes and you're just completely drained. Or maybe you talk to one of your best friends on the phone and you're feeling like you just got an energy boost, right? Like you're like a +3, something like that. So that can help you start to understand what kind of activities are, and even like as you track this over time and get more advanced, how are those activities affecting you and how is that relating to the time that you're spending on that as well? So that's a really fun experiment to run. So that's the OG designing your life version, good time journal version of that particular exercise. And it's really great in life design because it gives you some ideas of just being able to be more aware of the activities that you're going throughout your day and how they're affecting you. Then I evolved it into the activity flow journal because I wanted some more data points. So, first of all, I wanted to have people log it in a more efficient way. So, yes, it's great to have it in a journal, but sometimes it's hard to get those data points together. So, I originally created an Airtable. I'm also going to have a little bit of a Notion set up there for you as well that you can adapt into your own Notion workspace. But the original version, which I've actually had up for a little while and has gotten a lot of signups, is the Airtable version. So you can do this anywhere. Link it into your Google Sheets. Like you can use my inspiration for mine and adopt it to your own system. Basically, what I did was created a table where you have a lot of different parameters that you can track. I even have a calendar version where you are able to track those activities, and you track the engagement, you track the energy, but then there's also other pieces of data like the life area that it's in, like a health and wellness space or something social. Those will be detailed in the guide, but just so that you have a little bit more context of where you could look and maybe make some audits, right? So if you want to just audit a lot of your work activities, you could do that. The activity flow journal builds on the good time journal, but focuses more on tracking patterns and making adjustments over time. So it's not just understanding what gives you the energy or how engaged you are. It's about using that data to make better decisions on how to structure your days, your weeks. The goal is to make informed adjustments. So batching those high energy tasks during your peak energy hours and either delegating or moving draining tasks to low energy times. So when you're tracking it, I have a formula that's in there that will help you determine if something is potential that you're in flow when you're doing this activity or potential that this is a drain. So that is an indicator of things that may be more energizing for you, or maybe you're in a higher frequency space, or it's something that maybe you do want to delegate to someone else. So for example, something that is you're getting energy from it and you're quite engaged means that you're probably in a flow state. If there's low engagement and you're also drained, that's probably something that you want to delegate, because if you were highly engaged, maybe for example, and it was draining, it's probably something that you're really focused on and you're you're putting your all into it and it makes sense. But the things that you're not engaged with and they're draining you, I mean, that's something that probably needs to go. So it's a really great way to help you use that data and audit maybe some tasks that you can prioritize and also deprioritize. So I've noticed, like through tracking my own tasks, that creative work in the morning is when I'm most engaged and energized. So you can leverage a lot of this to also, it's not to rely on time, but to utilize time as something to compare with, right? So you might have a task, right, that you are logging at a certain time where a certain type of meeting and call is more energizing and more uplifting when it's in the afternoon than when it's in the morning. That could be a very, very plausible thing. Just like I said, if I'm doing something creative, it's more engaging, more energizing in the morning than trying to do it at an hour that maybe my brain isn't wired for that, and it's better to do an admin task. So it is still tied to time, but you're leveraging your time almost like 2x, 3x, even 10x, whatever, because you're leveraging your energy at the right time. So time isn't necessarily independent of it. It's just you can get a lot of information from time too. And like I said, with the draining piece, you could talk to somebody for 2, 3, 5 minutes, and they could completely drain you of energy, the same as an activity that you could spend 3 hours on, right? And I'm sure we've all experienced this. Or you could get into a flow state where you're working on something for a couple of hours and you feel even more energized coming out of it. There might be some interesting comparisons and parallels that you can get from all the things that you're learning about yourself. So this is just as much about self-discovery. So if you want, you can even start with your own energy practice by keeping a simple log. So maybe for the next week, try rating each of your tasks on engagement and energy and see what insights you uncover. You might be surprised what gives you energy and what doesn't. But of course, for those who want to take it a step further, I have the free Airtable template and also a little bit of Notion that can help you make it easier to track your activities and review your energy patterns. The key takeaway is this: once you understand how your energy flows throughout your day, you can start designing a life and a business that supports your natural rhythms rather than fighting against it. And of course, if you loved this episode and you like the cool Airtable and Notion template that I'm going to give you for the activity flow journal, please share it with a friend, because I feel like sometimes when we discover these different ways of managing our time or managing our energy, when you can share it with somebody else, you can experiment together. And it just helps get the podcast out there too. And please remember to rate and review. And you can sign up on everydayinnovation.io to get this and other tools in your inbox. Thank you so much.